Greetings, heretics, and welcome to another in the I'm Not Dead series of somewhat infrequent videos. I decided to have a go at Darktide again now that it is released, although I won't say it's anything like complete yet. Even though this is the release version, there are still some very rough work in progress edges still. In terms of actual technical reliability, though, it does seem to have improved quite a bit since the pre-sale beta phase, which is when I recorded my last video. But yeah, aside from the technical quality being improved, it's still not perfect yet. I've already had one crash that actually, I think it crashed the video drivers so hard that Windows crashed, and then I had to go and fiddle around to make sure they were behaving themselves after that. And I've seen some other people reporting other various things as well. So last time I played Mouse the Ogryn Skullbreaker, I will play the Sharpshooter this time round. I've actually created Psyker and Zealot characters as well, but I've not really played them very much. The Sharpshooter, unsurprisingly, gets a pretty wide selection of weapons, probably the widest. I mean, one of the things with the Ogryn is some of the weapons are quite fun, but the selection is pretty limited. And you'd think between the other sort of regular human scale classes, everyone would sort of be able to use more or less every weapon, but it's actually like there's kind of an artificial restriction in place, basically. It's a bit more selective than that. So the Zealot, for instance, is the only class that gets to use flamethrowers, and the Sharpshooter, I'm pretty sure, is the only class that gets to use plasma weapons. Although I haven't actually looked that up. It may be other people get to use plasma and bolter weapons as well than the Zealot, but so far as I know, it's just them. People will definitely rush to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments on that one. They definitely will. Right, there we go, we've loaded. Even on an SSD, the loading times are still quite long, which it sort of points back to what I was saying, that this doesn't really feel like a optimized 1.0 release. It feels like a slightly more polished version of what we were playing in the beta. But notably, since then, there have been some significant additions, and in fact, the latest patch actually added a bit more of the crafting system, which is probably the most work in progress aspect that is left at the moment. It also rebalanced a bunch of the weapons, mostly for the better. I won't delve into the patch notes in depth or anything like that, but yeah, compared to the crafting systems in Vermintide 1, which I have some experience of, and Vermintide 2, which I have very little experience of, this is definitely still in a half-baked state. So, with the release, you were able to consecrate items and basically increase their quality level and add a new, I don't know what you would call it, add a new kind of effect to the weapon. And it's entirely randomized. Just like when you buy new weapons, it's basically random. And a lot of people, it must be said, actually don't really like how the shop operates for getting new weapons as well. So that's another thing to note. But now you can actually swap, and if there's a thing that you don't particularly like, you can go, hey, I want to swap that out. And it will give you a new random effect in place of the existing random effect. But in terms of breaking down weapons that you have into usable parts, and I don't even know which one of those is going to be that and what the other thing is. But yeah, that's still not there yet. That's still very much on the to-do list. So hence me saying this doesn't really feel like a polished release. What they were very quick to add at launch was, of course, the in-game cosmetics shop, which again has a bit of a weird bug. Well, actually, no, this is the requisitorium. This isn't the relic shop, the premium shop. Basically, yeah, you do in-game tasks which reset weekly, and that gives you these. It's kind of like a free-to-play game where they shower you with all these different currency. So this particular currency you can use to get various different weapons and relics, which are generally much higher quality than you can get in the shop. But that's a rather grindy process. So that's just... yeah, that's a whole extra layer of grindable currency, I guess, to give the feeling that, hey, you're accomplishing something, I suppose. But this is the premium shop. And as you can see, it's yet another currency. In this case, it's a currency that you have to buy with actual money. And they did, at least with the 1.02 release, they made it so that there is a 2400 Aquila pack, which exactly matches up with the full character packs as opposed to the individual sort of skins and bits of gear that you can get, which, you know, some of which do look very, very nice. But I've noted that even though they've done that, they have removed that bit of abusive pricing. They still have the abusive pricing of, well, these things don't actually correspond for the most part to the quantities that you can get. So they get half a point for that. But there is literally no excuse for doing this kind of, we're going to price this at 700, but you can only buy 1,000. There's no excuse for that, other than they're trying to get you to buy more than you need. So the next time you want to buy a thing, well, you've bought 1,000 last time, you've got 300 left over, so now you're going to have to buy some more, rather than just letting you buy the exact amounts that you want. There really isn't an excuse for that, other than just kind of greediness. I'm not totally opposed to having these kind of cosmetic things that you can buy. That's, I guess, okay. But when you put an abusive pricing structure on top of that, that becomes far less okay. So I am not inclined to spend any extra money on this game than I've already spent to make my character look nicer when they insist on doing the abusive pricing model that is so prevalent in so many free-to-play games as well. And even Wargaming, for all their very many sins and faults, at least allow the option of buying exact amounts of premium currency that you want. In the armory, I think the other thing that's new from the last time I did a video is now you have still this hourly refresh, and again, this is the system that people don't like very much because it's entirely random what you get, and sometimes it will show you things that you're not actually eligible for, like the kind of weapon is maybe unlocked by your level, but then the particular weapon that it's put in is locked behind a level requirement. What is the point of that? I don't know. That's just kind of teasing the player, to be honest, and it feels a bit mean. But the other thing they've added is that you can now buy some in-game things with the I keep wanting to call them Throne Gelt, but they're not Throne Gelt. Like, you can tell I've played some desktop Warhammer 40k stuff. Whatever those are, the shipboard tokens, the company script, or whatever you want to call it. This was just kind of like the most basic one. There are others that you do actually unlock through just going up through the levels, so you can do a bit mix and match with your upper and lower halves. And I still don't know what the accessory slot is for, but I think some of the ones that the complete package ones that you buy have something you can put in the accessory slot. I just guess you don't get any freebie accessories. So, who knows? Anyway, that's a whistle stop of the new stuff. Let's actually jump in and play around. And I think what gun do I have actually? Let's check. I've got the plasma gun. There's also the bolter. I'm going to take the bolter because the bolter is fun. The plasma is also okay, but it's more okay in a kind of utilitarian sense than a like super fun sense. Okay, here's one with a bonus challenge, and this is a new thing again, and I think I'll probably keep adding these. It is going to have extra poxhounds running around the place, so they're the annoying ones that knock you over. For some reason, I'm choosing to play a mission where there are extra of them, because that totally makes sense. I've not actually seen many of the play in the dark ones. I don't know if they're just kind of limiting how many how often that one pops up, but yeah, they're either increased or decreased mob units. The poxwalkers tend to be the most common that I see popping up. The most recent patch also added a new mission, although it's still using existing tile sets, so a lot of the various parts of the things seem very familiar, and I can't remember what else was new. I think they added 2 new weapons as well, 2 new melee weapons, one of which was for the Ogrin. But with the Ogrin, yeah, you kind of have, once you get the heavy stubber, it's like, okay, unless you particularly are attached to the grenade gauntlet, the heavy stubber is kind of like the best weapon, pretty much. Yeah, the other grenade launcher is still pretty good, and I still do use that, but the big shotgun gets surpassed pretty quickly. I was actually criticising the Ripper gun last time, and I stand by that kinda, but it turns out there's actually 2 versions of the Ripper gun, and one of them, for some reason, the Mark II, at least of the ones I've got, the Mark II Ripper gun is just straight up better than the Mark V Ripper gun, which I'm not entirely sure that makes a lot of sense. Anyway, in terms of fun weapons, though, for the sharpshooter, I mean, they get a couple. They get some kind of like precision auto guns, which are just like, you know, standard rifles. But they also get obviously various las weapons, including Hellbore las rifles, which are more famously wielded by the kind of more elite Astra Militarium troops. But yeah, they also get that plasma gun, which is one of the weapons that got a bit of a buff with the most recent patch, because it had quite a long kind of cooldown mechanic before. And yeah, there's also this bolter, which is not quite the full-on chonky bolter that the Space Marines can manage, but it's still a goddamn bolter, and it's still quite a lot of fun to pepper people with the excessive ammunition. There we go. See, heavy stubber. Yeah, heavy stubber is quite a lot in evidence. And yes, I hoovered up some ammo when I didn't really need it, but also it was kind of like, there's no point in leaving that ammo behind, because yeah, this is one of those areas where you then drop down and can't go back. So, this though, yeah, it's just fun. I think when I first got it, I was having a bit too much fun with it, almost, but yeah, especially when you get big crowds, you'll see in a bit. I mean, it's got a limited magazine capacity, so that's definitely a limiting factor, but it is quite accurate. It does a very high amount of damage, and it's not quite as devastating in big crowds as the stubber, but I mean, you're essentially firing like little grenades. They're sort of rocket-powered grenades you're firing at people, essentially. I mean, it's sort of famously inspired by a gun system called the gyrojet, which fired little rocket bullets. This is an actual real-life thing. I'm sure there's probably plenty of videos on the internet about the gyrojet. But yeah, it's the closest thing in real life there is to heavy bolter. Oh, that's a heavy guy. Or just bolters generally, so... But yeah, you can just unload on people and it just turns them into fountains of jam, basically. It's kind of ridiculous. I've also, this is the first time I'm using this. This is I was using the chain sword, but this is a chain axe, which is like a chain sword but choppier. Also, let's use the Medicaid station so I can get rid of my corruption. One neat feature of this I really like the attention to detail, like the technical whatevers aside, and criticism of their monetization aside, like in terms of the attention to detail of 40k, I have to say this is pretty incredible. Like there are some good shooty 40k games out there, and in fact there's actually been the announcement of Space Marine 2, which I think surprised a lot of people. The Rogue Trader, what's the technical name for it? CRPG or something like that, is coming out, which is by the same studio. It's like Owl or something. The same studio that did the 2 Pathfinder RPG games. And yeah, so there's some good 40k stuff coming out sort of now and in the sort of foreseeable future. And yeah, I mean, this isn't the only good game in terms of sort of environments and whatever, but it's up there. I mean, in terms of the scale, in terms of the detail. I mean, the reason I've sort of gone off on this tangent was just like if you hold down the right mouse button to change to use your iron sight, which I wish you could get at least some kind of scope. The fact that we're still using incredibly basic iron sights on, you know, a friggin' bolter is a little bit silly. But, you know, that's our KO tech, you guys. Although having said that, there are actually some of the las guns that have, like, I don't know what you call them, hollow sights or whatever. They look like proper, much more usable gun sights. But yeah, when you right-click, you actually get that indicator at the back showing you whether you're on single fire or burst fire mode. Which is just, there's just so many little lovely details like that in this game. Right, so, like just the way people cower when you're firing certain weapons near them as well. The heavy stubber also has that effect. Some enemies will get suppressed temporarily. So yeah, the downside of this is it's really powerful, but the downside is that you don't get a huge amount of ammo for it, and because these are, I can't even remember what size the shells are, but they're something ridiculous. They can't fit many to a magazine, so it empties pretty quickly. So you have to be a bit judicious about it. I've kind of learned that with the Mark II version of the stubber as well, because weirdly you'd think like the Mark V version would be like single fire or something, or maybe some versions are, because I've noticed that with even some, like, you know, the same pattern of an autogun or whatever, like one that you'll pick up will have an alt burst fire mode or an alt single fire mode, and you know, you look at the same gun and it's like they're both burst fire or whatever. So I don't know if there is that much variation within guns, or maybe I'm just imagining that I saw that. I don't know, but yeah, both versions, both the Mark II and Mark V Ripper gun, both are burst fire. Considering they have a limited ammo, the fact that you can't choose to do single shots is a bit of an issue sometimes. So you have to kind of, I've learned to use it a bit of a different way, but it also just means there's a lot of time when you want to hit something at range, but you really can't kind of afford to waste the ammo. Like, oh, hello, doggy. Oh, its head just disappeared. Okay. Yeah. So the weapon balancing, I'm sure, will continue. It's certainly not done yet. I mean, the plasma gun was, I won't say unusable, but it was difficult to use before. You spent a lot of time just waiting for it to cool down, or going through the lengthy reload animation, which kind of like forced the cooldown basically, or hastened the cooldown. So yeah, that's a lot more usable now, because if you let it fully overheat, it gets kind of a bit ouchy to the user. I think it basically like burns your hands essentially. I could take that, but we've got someone else on yellow as well. Yeah, it's nice when you get people that, like, especially playing with random groups, you know, you'll get, sometimes people will be considerate of other people's ammo needs, and other times you get people that are just being total jerks and just absolutely, like, they'll not pay any heed to anybody else's ammo requirements and just hoover up all the ammo for themselves. And not bother to like mark ammo that they found that maybe they don't need it at that moment. So it's always nice when you get a group that is being very mindful of other members of the group, and then it's particularly annoying when you get people that aren't being so. There's a. I mean, I could grab that. Yeah, okay, let's top up my ammo.
Don't you tell me what to do.
You might hear a cat meowing in the background, by the way. He's a poor little kitty cat, and nobody loves him and nobody cares. Right, so that is a demon host. We don't want to wake that. I mean, we can wake that, but they're kind of annoying to fight if you don't have basically the exact right things, which appear to be either well, the best combination seems to be the Bulgrin, or well, the Ogryn with the Bulgrin shield, the big slab shield, and somebody with either like an Ogryn with one of the high damage Ripper guns, or Bolter that can kick out a bunch of damage, or the plasma gun. So if you've like, you can't really sort of plan ahead of time. Like, if you happen to have the right sort of setup, then it's fine. But yeah, if you don't, then you maybe just kind of want to avoid getting stuck in. Well, I should probably be meleeing these guys rather than using the ammo. Yeah, you can be. I mean, the reason I've been playing this a lot more than the other two classes, I've sort of more or less topped out the. I've just noticed how that sort of immediately the purple is taking over. Is that because we've got the extra pox out? I'm not actually sure what's causing that. Anyway, what was I saying? Something about ammo, and I can't even remember. I completely distracted myself by noticing how the corruption bar filled up almost immediately. Oh, somebody's gotten hounded. Oh yeah, maybe it's maybe it was the pox hounds that have added that as a condition. Like, I can't think what other anything we've got going on. Oh, no, I couldn't quite get the reload. Oh well. It's sort of a long reload on this. It's a downside. Like, it's good for short, high-intensity bursts of damage, but it's like unlike the staying power of the heavy stubber, which you could just unload so much Daka into a big crowd of enemies and essentially take them out yourself. And then being the Ogryn, you're not even taking that much damage as you're doing it. And as a bonus, you're you know, like if you feel like it or you hit the need to reload, you can just switch to your melee weapon and start swinging with that and taking out huge swathes as well. But yeah, you're just hitting the reload far more often with most of the sharpshooter's guns. I mean, the sharpshooter does have, as a class, the benefit of just being able to carry more ammo generally. So you're going to run dry less often compared to trying to solely run on rely on your melee, your ranged weaponry as oh, I tripped that bit earlier. And he's dead just before. Never mind. Yeah, I wasted my extra damage Daka shot there. Yeah, I kind of lost. What was I saying? Something about something. I don't know. I'm being very freeform, you know, flow of consciousness right now. I'm sure it was some terribly interesting, important point, but yeah. I mean, this is another reason why, aside from just the general everything that's going on at the moment, which I know I've been a bit vague about, but yeah, that's still all very much ongoing. But yeah, my brain is even less capable of doing straight lines of thought without just me getting sidetracked and forgetting what I was talking about mid-sentence and then sounding like a complete nitwit for not remembering a thing I was talking about 3 seconds ago. So, you know, obviously that makes for very coherent content, but I guess people aren't necessarily watching me because of my super concise coherentness at this point. Anyway, so yeah, see, this is a decent group. People are leaving that ammo for the guy that needed it rather than just hoovering it up. Anyway, so yeah, this thing where it must be connected to the pop sound thing. I don't know. Yeah, it's a bit daft. You might be wondering why I grabbed that, by the way, but there is going to be some ammo coming up in the very, very near future. In fact, there's some ammo right there as well. Because we're about to go to, like, the next boss area. So, in fact, it's like the final boss area, I think. Might as well see what kind of proportion I can get that. Right, well, if you're not going to grab that, I'm going to grab that and top up my... Oh, is it because 2 people have got grimoires? It's because 2 people have got grimoires. I didn't even notice that. We've got a secondary condition for grimoires. And, yeah, okay. If you're holding grimoires, that does add a bunch of corruption. In this case, it's over half my health bar has been blocked out by the corruption instead. Anyway, so what was I saying? This time I've actually remembered me hoovering up that bit of ammo is fine because I'm actually holding a deployable ammo crate. And it doesn't just kind of immediately run out, unlike the health one, so I can just plonk it down, basically. Well, not immediately run out, but the health one does have a fixed timer, essentially. There's either a certain amount of health or a certain amount of time that it runs for. Or both. And, yeah, let's get some grenades down as well. Another class ability of the veteran, which is nice, is you essentially have magically regenerating grenades, like I think once per minute. I think you can also hold the most grenades of any class. So you can do a good bunch of damage. Like you've got the option of bunging them all out at once, or else, you know, you can pace it a bit more and leave the pickups to other people. Anyway, that was extremely quick. Normally that takes a bit longer. But we really hammered the boss hard there. I mean, this was only a 2-star difficulty, or whatever you want to call it, a 2-bar difficulty. Oh, yeah, she got a weapon there. Okay. So yeah, not that difficult, but I'm hesitating to do the 3rd level of difficulty with a group of random people. I might try it. I don't know, but not just now. Not just now. Anyway, so yeah, the bolt was fun. I was sort of vaguely tempted actually to do another one after this and like just do another mission with the plasma thing, but maybe some other day. And yeah, I don't want this to drag on. I think I've said everything I want to say about the current post-release state of the game. And oh yeah, we're going to get one of the... When you hit certain milestone levels, you get little videos. And again, lovely attention to detail, and the voice work is all pretty good.
15 seconds early. This unit regrets that this unit was not permitted to
It's very 40k. Like, they've absolutely nailed the tone of it. I mean, they've been working with the Warhammer fantasy side of things for... like whenever Vermintide first came out, it's a good few years ago at this point, so yeah. It's not quite as grimdark as 40k, although it kind of got that way, but yeah, they have some experience with the franchise. Anyway, so yeah, level 21, it's one of those milestones. I don't think I got any extra... no, it's like level 25, that's every 5 levels, no extra anything there. So yeah, overall it's in a better state than previously. It's probably a bit more worth the money now, but yeah, if you want to hang off and wait for them to polish up the technical side, add the crafting in fully instead of the kind of halfway whatever piecemeal thing we have at the moment. Yeah, it still feels a bit early days at the moment. It doesn't quite feel like it should be a full release. There's still enough jank in here that this kind of feels like it's in the later stages of an early access release rather than, hey guys, the game is ready and it's out now. Anyway, but rather than, you know, just rehash what I've said already, I guess I should probably wrap things up. So, yeah, that is it for this video from the grim dorkiness of the far future. And if you have enjoyed it, you can do all the usual things down underneath it. And of course, as always, stay tuned for more.